Welcome to HSEEG.
Hydrogen sulfide, H2S, is one of the most dangerous workplace gases. It's invisible, and you may never sense it. That's why protection is not optional.
All right, today we are tackling one of the most dangerous and sneaky threats in the oil and gas industry, hydrogen sulfide, or H2S. And look, this isn't just about learning some facts from a textbook. This is about building a defense plan for a situation where there is absolutely zero room for error. So let me ask you this, just to set the stage. What if I told you there's an invisible threat out there that can knock out your most important warning system, your sense of smell, in just a few seconds? It tricks you into thinking you're safe right before it does serious damage. Well, that's exactly what we're dealing with when we talk about H2S. So here's our game plan. We're going to break this down into 5 critical parts. First, we'll get to know the enemy itself. Then, we'll look at the exposure risks. After that, we'll cover the gear that'll keep you safe. Then, the plan for how to operate safely. And finally, what to do in a rescue and first aid situation. Let's jump in. Okay, first things first, we have to profile our adversary. Really understanding what H2S is, what it does, and how it behaves, that's the bedrock of your entire safety plan. So, what is this stuff? Well, H2S is basically a toxic gas that's created when organic stuff, plants and animals, decays with oxygen. And for anyone working in oil and gas, on rigs, near wells, in plants, it's a constant potential hazard. It's just part of the environment. Now, let's get into its key characteristics, because this is what makes it so tricky. 1, it's colorless. You can't see it coming. 2, it has that famous rotten egg smell. But, and this is a huge but, that's your first and often only natural warning. 3, it's heavier than air. This is so important. It means it sinks and pools in low spots like ditches, tanks, or cellars. And 4, as if that wasn't enough, it's also super flammable. And just to give you an idea of how flammable we're talking about, look at this. The explosive range for H2S is massive, from 4.3% concentration in the air all the way up to 46%. Now, compare that to something we all know is flammable, gasoline. Its range is way, way smaller. That huge window for H2S makes it an incredibly dangerous fire and explosion risk. Okay, so we know what it is. Now let's talk about what it does to you. How does this threat actually attack the human body? This right here, this might be the single most important thing to burn into your memory. At low levels, you can smell it. But at high concentrations, H2S paralyzes the nerves in your nose. The smell vanishes. So if you smell rotten eggs and then suddenly you don't, that does not mean the gas is gone. It means the danger just got critical. Let's put some hard numbers on this. At 10 parts per million, or ppm, you've already hit what's called the permissible exposure limit. That's the most you should be exposed to, and even then, only for a limited time. Now, things escalate quickly. Jump up to just 15 to 20 ppm, and you're in a dangerous concentration. Any work here has to be super brief. We're talking under 15 minutes. Honestly, at this point, you should already be thinking about using a breathing apparatus. No chances taken. And then we get to 100 ppm. This is the big one. It's classified as immediately dangerous to life and health. This is the level where your sense of smell is completely knocked out. Exposure can lead to collapse, you can stop breathing, and it can cause permanent harm or worse. This is a red zone. Okay, that's the threat. It's serious, but knowing the danger is only half the battle. Now, let's talk about the tools we use to fight back. This is your protective arsenal. In the world of safety, we have what's called a hierarchy of controls. Now, your employer is responsible for the big picture stuff, the engineering controls like ventilation and the administrative controls like making sure you get training. But we're going to focus on that last critical line of defense, your personal protective equipment, your gear, the stuff that's in your hands. First up, your personal gas detector. Think of this little thing as your guardian angel. It's constantly sniffing the air right around you. And it's your personal responsibility to carry it, make sure it's on and working, and to trust it when it starts screaming at you. It's your early warning system. Next up is the portable detector. This is the Scout. You use this to test the air inside a tank or a confined space before anyone even thinks about going in. It lets you look before you leap to see what dangers are waiting inside from a safe distance. And then you have the sentries. These are the fixed gas detectors that are mounted in high-risk areas around a facility. They're like watchdogs, on duty 24/7, constantly monitoring the air and ready to sound the alarm across the entire site if they detect a leak. So if the detectors are your alarm system, a breathing apparatus is your life support. You've got a few options. There's the EEBD, the emergency escape device that gives you about 10 to 15 minutes of air, just enough to get out of Dodge. Then there's the full SCBA, which gives you about 30 minutes to work or perform a rescue. And for long-duration jobs, you've got cascade systems that can supply air for a much longer time. Look, having the best gear in the world doesn't mean a thing if you don't have a solid plan, and that's what this section is all about. Because at the end of the day, following the correct procedure is your absolute best defense. I want you to let this quote sink in for a second, because it is chilling. Most H2S victims had the training, they knew the risks, but they didn't follow the procedure. The breakdown wasn't in their knowledge, it was in their actions. That's the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it, and it can be a fatal one. So what is that procedure? It's this pre-entry protocol, and it is absolutely non-negotiable. First, you do a risk assessment, a toolbox talk. Second, you communicate your plan, let people know where you're going and what you're doing. Third, your PPE is on and ready, detector on, breathing apparatus standing by. And fourth, and this is a big one, you use the buddy system. You never, ever enter alone. A standby person isn't a suggestion, it's a mandatory lifeline. Finally, we have to go there. We have to talk about what to do when the absolute worst-case scenario happens. This is where your training, your gear, and your discipline are put to the ultimate test. And please, listen to this carefully. A heartbreakingly high number of people who die in H2S incidents aren't the first victim. They're the people who rush in to try and save them. Your natural human instinct is to help a friend in trouble, but here, that instinct can get you killed too. So this is the correct rescue procedure. It might feel counterintuitive, but it is the only way to do it safely. Step 1. Protect yourself first. Before you do anything else, you put on your own breathing apparatus. You are no good to anyone if you become a second casualty. Step 2. Sound the alarm. Let everyone know there's an emergency. Step 3. Get the victim out of there and into fresh air, upwind from the source. And step 4. Assess them. Check for breathing, check for a pulse, and start CPR or artificial respiration as you've been trained. So it all comes down to this one final question. You can have the best equipment, you can sit through hours of training, you can know all the facts, but none of it matters without discipline. The discipline to follow the procedure every single time. The discipline to fight your own instincts in a crisis. That is what keeps you safe. That is what keeps your team safe. The question isn't just what you know, it's what you're prepared to do.
Stay safe with HSEEG.